And we are live. So, hi everybody. This is the next installment of Meet the Candidate, and we're here with Lucia Baez-Geller, who is running for School Board District 3. So, by now you know, I'm going to start with introduce yourself. Tell us about you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you to WMN for allowing me this opportunity to address you and your members. I'm really excited. So I'm Lucia Baez-Geller, and I'm a candidate for Miami-Dade County School Board District 3, which encompasses a little bit of Brickell, Miami Beach, all the Miami Beach municipalities, North Bay Village, Bal Harbour, Surfside, and then it goes up the East Coast to Sunny Isles, Aventura, and pieces of North Miami and North Miami Beach. So in many cases, it's bigger than a commission seat, if you can believe that. So it's really a great opportunity to get the word out, to be here with you guys. And so I'll tell you about myself, Lucia Baez-Geller for school board. I am a teacher in District 3 for the past 15 years at Miami Beach Senior High. It's my pride and joy. And I became a teacher because I was taught the value of an education from my mother, who worked hard to put food on the table so I could, just focus on my studies, and from teachers who always taught me that good was never good enough. I had to be excellent. And that has been a great opportunity in my own experience as a teacher in the classroom to kind of give them that legacy of striving for excellence, of persisting. And that has really shaped who I am as a person. And it's shaped my candidacy in that in the past 15 years, I've seen that every student has the potential and the opportunity to succeed. It's really just on to us, the school system, to provide them the resources that they need. Every student has the opportunity to succeed, and I know that now. And I've always known that. So basically, I'm running now to bring that firsthand knowledge to the school board, because basically I've seen what works and what doesn't work. I know the policies that come down from Tallahassee, the school board. I know how they get kind of lost in translation. And sometimes there's not good intentions, but sometimes there are good intentions. But in implementation, a lot of that gets lost. So I want to make sure that I can provide that input, provide that even before we put out policies and programs. I've also seen the conditions, and the reality is our classrooms are overcrowded, as we know. Our teachers are overworked, and our students are over-tested, and they're really made to feel kind of like a number at this point, instead of like a whole person that needs to be inspired and motivated to do what they really want to do. And so that's really where my desire to run stems from. I've been very lucky to be active in the community all these years. I'm a union steward in my building. I've been a member of the teachers union my whole career and a building steward for the past 5 years. So fighting for our contract rights, our teacher voices, to be at the table for decision making, that's been something that I've been working with. And that has taken me to Tallahassee, to DC. So I've been able to get a lot of that experience that's going to help create a movement and a momentum for our public schools. So that's just a little bit about me so far.
Thank you so much. And I think that it's so I am the daughter of a public school teacher and the granddaughter of a public school teacher and the niece of a public school teacher. So I just know how much your role is important and your experience, and really having to implement a lot of the decisions that the school board makes is
Christina? Uh-oh. I think Christina's frozen. I'm not sure if it's me or her.
yes, is.
Oh, there you are. Christina, I'm sorry. I lost you
Oh,
for a second.
sorry. No, I was saying that what is your vision for the role for your office and a little bit more about what exactly the school board member can and cannot do.
Absolutely. So my vision is one where we have we're fostering kind of like an inclusive environment. And for that, what that means is we need to kind of see our school more like a family in which everyone plays a role, but everyone's really looking out for each other. So we need that in terms of we want to make sure that our schools are places where kids feel relaxed, ready to learn, and focused on that. Before COVID, it was hard because there was violence, guns, drugs, abuse, domestic. I mean, we can go on hunger. We could really go on forever, Christina. And with all the teachers in your family, I know you know. And I'm sure you've seen your family members give up even time with their own families to help their kids. You know that. So, I love that you're in the teaching world too. But, so
Definitely.
we have to have that family, that personal touch, and it's going to keep us safer. So for safety, we've always talked about, yes, the school resource officers, we have one in every school. Okay, but we need preventative measures. And I think that happens with increasing funds for mental health counselors, for listening programs where we can have that mentorship kind of program, increasing mentorship programs. But then in general, having the resources and the training available so that counselors know how to deal with that. One thing, for example,
Mhm.
that I want to bring to the table is our counselors are not necessarily trained yet on how to deal with LGBT students. I mean,
Mm.
that really needs to be updated, like the types of lives that our students have this 2020 are way different than, what we have in place. So we need to update our policies and our protocols. That's somewhere where I see us going for sure. And especially
Mhm.
in relation with our mental health counseling, that's going to be very important. Also, I think we really need to update, as you know, this distance learning has really revolutionized everything.
Right.
So definitely don't think that we need to go to full distance learning because, everybody's kind of like having a meltdown about that right now. And
Yes, they are.
I get that it's not ideal. Trust me. Trust me. We want to go back to the classroom too, teachers. Nobody thinks this is a good idea. Actually, just the school year that ended, I was working full 16-hour days just preparing
Mm.
online lessons. Like, trust me, we all want to go back. But what it has shown us is that we can provide more options for our students instead of the traditional schoolhouse model, and
Right.
that there are students who thrived. Christina, if I can tell you how many students thrived in distance learning, where at school they just felt they could not concentrate or too much social anxiety,
Mm.
and there are students that went from straight F's to straight A's in the fourth quarter. It was
Wow.
incredible to watch. So, with all that said, I'll tell you this, there's definitely an opportunity to kind of rework the options available to provide a world-class education. So that means we can increase our internship programs. If
Mhm.
we're learning that kids are just doing better outside of a classroom, let's increase that. Let's increase our public-private partnerships where,
Mhm.
for example, at Beach High where I work, we have the Bass Museum walking distance. We have the public library walking distance. We have so much just kind of culture. We have the Miami City Ballet walking distance. So there are real world opportunities that are waiting for our kids. And I think if anything, this pandemic distance learning has helped us kind of crack through that traditional schoolhouse model. So I
Right.
definitely keep developing those opportunities. And I think we need a lot of workforce development because kids certainly would benefit, even if they're still in their college track, whatever, but every student would benefit from some form of vocational learning, some form of hands-on learning, because we learn as we do. And even if it's just
Exactly.
in an office, with a paralegal being whatever it is, there are opportunities for our kids to start learning about their careers ahead of time, learning about themselves, and being out there in the real world. So those are some of the places where I see we can be coming up better, having safe family environments, etc. But we also need to just make sure that we have a fighter at the school board, and I would say that's me, because we have a lot of ideas that are not being heard, programs, policies being passed through without anybody asking any questions, you know? And we want to ask questions, and it doesn't mean that we can't work together. We have to work together,
Right.
but we have to have student success centered goals focused on our children and how we're going to move them forward. And that's it. Let's get the politics out of it. Let's get special interests out of it, and let's have goals. And if we have to agree on that. And if we can't agree on that, then there's a problem. And I'll be sure to, tell people. So we want to make sure we have that. So that's where I see us going in the beginning. And I definitely want to review a lot of the protocols we have in general. So that's where I'll be.
Definitely. I'm curious. So this was not one of the questions that I normally ask, but I really want to know, what has been your experience running for office? I know we're going to get into the ways that we can support you, but it has been a different scenario trying to run for office in the middle of a pandemic. Also knowing that a lot of people, as we were mentioning before, who haven't traditionally paid attention to the school board or to our education system, are now tuning in. They're now paying attention. Even for folks like me who do not have children, I know that this is an important institution that impacts hundreds of thousands of families in our county. So I'm definitely curious to know how that has been.
Well, yeah, I mean, running for office, there's been a lot of similarities to being a teacher. I'll tell you, for example, adapting and changing to the environment. We had COVID. We had, for a while, we were all just concerned about our community, and doing what you can to help out is a part of it. It's a part of elected office, a part of being a part of the community. So I spent a lot of those months in our first quarantine just kind of ensuring that everybody had what they needed, which was interesting. It wasn't something that I expected. And of course, we go to events, candidates, we're at events, we're at giveaways, food, backpacks. I've been going to that since before being a candidate,
Right,
and helping put those on always, but they just carried so much more weight now. And so I think as a candidate, it really made it clear how fragile our communities are and how much work still needs to be done. And I'm not sure that that would have been clear or obvious had we not been in the middle of a pandemic. So I'm very grateful for that, actually, in some way, because it motivated me to really get out there and tell my story and talk about the kids and talk about what I've seen. So,
right.
that on the ground experience has been helpful, but also it's the idea of making change and that you need a village. I guess you can't do anything alone. That's also been very present in running for office, and the idea that my people, my community, first of all, most of my entire campaign has been student pretty much based. They've been my callers, they've been my canvassers. If you're getting a call from a kid, it's most probably one of mine. I tell them, I'm like, nobody's gonna hang up on you. You guys are so sweet. Don't worry. And they're right. They're
It's
like,
so true. It's so true.
15 minutes. It was great. I'm like, that's not what they're doing me, but I'm glad you're having fun, So they're really sweet. But yeah, like it's been clear to me that you need a village, you need a community, but it also has been clear that, these students have a positive experience with me. They were in my classroom. Doesn't matter. I've been teaching since '05. So yeah, so it's, when you say 15 years, it's like great. But then when you think about 2005 and where you were,
it feels like a lifetime ago now.
we're probably 13.
Where was I in 2000? I mean, I was only in high school, but I was older than 13.
Yeah, so that was a lifetime ago, and there's kids even from that era that are coming out, knocking on, well, they were knocking on doors, calling people. So it's been so amazing to know my path, know why I'm doing it, but also know that the community is behind me and that they see me as a good resource. That was a gift. It's one that I can't ask for more in life. Really, I so cheesy. I already feel like
I love it.
I'm so sorry. I keep telling people that, and they're like, okay, and I'm like, no, I already won.
I mean, students are important. You know, we get lost in the sauce about like voters and you know, endorsements and all of these things, but I would say that the biggest and most important endorsement are the students. And that, you know, is definitely exhibited by your campaign. And so there's an audience question. Actually, there are a few. So the first one I think is a really great segue. So Susan says, students are our future leaders. What are some of the things that you have done to shape these young leaders? And I think one great example is getting them civically engaged with your campaign. So any other thoughts around that?
Absolutely. So we've been able to, I guess, in the classroom, I can't take them out into the world, but I can bring the world into our classroom. So was something that kids always remember about me is that we were always working on social issues, social problems. I would give extra credit for volunteering. I would make sure that they would come up with solutions to regular local problems, even if it was like the lunch line is too long. Like one year we had a big lunch line issue. It was a scandal. And,
don't get in between students and their food. This is very important.
Growing children, but really and truly. They wrote to their principal, they got an appointment with her, and they were able to come up with a solution. So just being active members of change, I think is something that I have instilled in them and that they've actively seen me do. I couldn't, of course, talk politics with them all these years, but I could get them civically engaged. I could talk to them about voting. I could talk to them about, you know, things like systemic, you know, racism. I could talk to them about all of the issues because through English and sociology, that's really what I've been teaching them is life, really. So yeah, active members of change. I've also really kind of worked with them on seeing how they're really not in competition with each other, they're in competition with themselves. And I think that's something that I've always instilled in my students. And, you know, if anybody wants to go to my social media, you'll hear this, and we'll talk about that later. You'll hear this in their voices, in their own testimonials, that I was really preparing them for the world and how to be a member, an active voice for change, but also how to actively work in the world. So aside from the projects, the community service, advocating, I've also been able to really provide students, not single-handedly, of course, it takes a village, but greater social mobility. And that I've been able to do that through the dual enrollment program. It's something that is near and dear to my heart. I'll tell you why. Because dual enrollment, it's in conjunction with Miami-Dade or FIU. I did the FIU side. Where students who are bubble students in the middle, so they are A and B students that haven't necessarily been in AP, advanced placement, or IB classes, and you kind of pick them out from just this bubble, what we call the bubble. And they're bubble kids. They're not, you know, the shining stars, but they're great kids with potential. And we've been able to bring them into the dual enrollment program, and they get 3 college credits for every course that they take. English.
That's amazing.
Yeah, criminal justice. We have so many courses at Beach High, upwards of 13 right now. We have 13 college courses on our campus. I teach 2 of them, and we've identified colleagues throughout the whole school in order to build up the program. We had aspirations of making it kind of like a school for advanced studies where they can get their AA at Beach High at the same time as their grad diploma. But we're funded by the city of Miami Beach. Primarily, the city of Miami Beach pays for these courses, for each course every kid takes. So one year they kind of gave us a money limit, and they were like, spend up to money. And we're like, okay, that's not going to be enough to get every kid an AA, but we appreciate it. And our students at Beach, they're that are in the middle, again, they're coming into and these are the kids that go to Miami-Dade and FIU ultimately.
Right.
And they're going in with almost a full year to year and a half completed. So that's been a passion of mine.
That's transformational. Like to be able to have a head start, and that raises your GPA. That does make you more competitive if you did want to apply to other schools. So yeah, that's definitely an underutilized and opportunity.
Yeah. And so that's something I really want to bring to the table in terms of, yes, we want the hands-on learning, real world opportunities, but we also want to increase students participating in advanced academically rigorous classes. Because you know what? Everybody always says, and this is controversial, Christina, everyone says, oh, college isn't for everyone. But you know what? In our communities here in Miami-Dade, it is certainly a way for our students to get a step up. And so as much as possible, I'm going to be working on that. And that's okay. And then they can decide, you know, but if you tell a kid from the beginning, well, college isn't for everyone, then they'll say, I'm probably not that person. But I want to make sure that they can decide for themselves whether they want to go that route. And I think dual enrollment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, I talk about dual enrollment
Thank you.
a lot.
No, that is super important, and I know that most folks think about magnet programs, but there are alternatives for students in the bubble, like you'd like to say. I'm totally going to use that, because there are high performing students that are not in accelerated programs, and this is a perfect solution for them. And again, why it's important to have an educator on the school board. So another question was that, so there are other candidates. What makes you different, or the better choice, I should say? I'm going to rephrase that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so like we've said, on the ground experience has been great, and everybody knows that. I'm the teacher, la profesora. I know that I've beat that down. Everybody knows. But I can't say it enough. It should count for something that I have that on the ground experience, because the weight of these decisions, it's really important that we know how they come out in the end, you know, and I can have that. I can intervene before that, and say, this isn't going to work. Let me tell you why. Let's try something else. And this is taxpayer money that we're saving. You know, this is grief, heartache, lives we could be saving by just thinking with on the ground experience in mind, you know. And right now we have amazing school board members, and yes, they were teachers, but they haven't been in the classroom upwards of 20 to 30 years now, in conjunction, all of them.
Right.
So, you know, we definitely need that voice. But we also we need someone that has been speaking up. In 2013, I was the National Education Association, the National Union. I was their activist of their year, their advocate of the year. So somebody really saw something in me that said, this is somebody that uses her voice, who speaks up, who is not afraid to step in front of people and speak truth to power. And that's me. I've been going to the school board actually I mean, I can give you a very quick, I know the resume style is bad.
But go for it.
I'm gonna go for it. In 2010, when Charlie Crist, he had SB6 on his desk, which was going to be terrible and was going to tie all of our teaching to performance, which is, you know, we know is not great.
Not effective at all.
Effective. I was part of putting out a sick out, you know, where we all took a personal day, and by 1 p.m., so we all took a personal day and took to the streets. By 1 p.m., Charlie Crist had vetoed the bill. He heard us loud and clear, and I was active on the ground for that. Like I said, 2013, I got my award. 2014, I was with the League of Women Voters doing an equity study. I spent all summer long with the Florida League of Women Voters, working with them. And from that study about equity, I was able to take part in a suit that children and families of Florida were doing against the Florida Department of Education. They cited my study that I just did as kind of like a hobby, that was cited. In 2018, when there was rumors that we were going to do a referendum so that teachers can be paid through the millage tax, et cetera. Before it was even an idea, I was speaking up at the school board and saying that our taxpayers needed to be heard. Everybody knows a teacher. Everybody in Miami-Dade knows somebody that's a teacher that's overworked and deserves more. And I was there. But basically, I've been promoting the needs of our school system in a positive way, in a productive way, in a way that brings people together, and that it's just like common sense. We all can agree that these things matter. And I've been able to see the effects of that, like produce outcomes that are good for our school. So that's been great. And also, I've made education a priority my whole life. So I went to college to be a teacher since I was 21. It wasn't a fallback career, a second career. It's everything. It's everything to me. It's what I wanted to do. I studied education, and I became a teacher, but then I wasn't just a passive teacher. I was on the front lines. I was actively advocating for change, and I was surrounding myself with people that believe the same thing. So in this case, organizations like we were talking about, like even WMN, Power U, League of Women Voters, and even elected officials that I met in Tallahassee. We've been working together for years. So a lot of people have asked me about the endorsements, and I'm like, they're yes, colleagues and friends, but they're people I met in the trenches, working hard,
Right.
sweating. So yeah, these are people that believe in me and that know that education is everything that I do. And I'm gonna work hard for the students. Yes, there's a lot of people in this district. Yes, the needs are different. Yes, one size fits all is not gonna work, but I have the energy and the experience and the passion so that we can include everybody in making our schools better and our communities better.
So I just want to share that you're getting love in the chat. There were many, many hearts and folks that are citing their long-standing relationship with you in the trenches, like Raisa, like Susan. So I want to say thank you so much for doing this. And so how can folks support you? You have an audience that is ready to put in the work for the next couple of days as we count down until election day. So how can folks support your campaign and support you?
Awesome. Well, right now, what we need is boots on the ground, sweat equity. So if you have, a few hours that you can donate to me, so that you can make some calls. We're getting the calls out. We've called upwards of 10,000 people already, but it's not. Yes. So we'll put up our information, but you can email me or call me if you're interested in making calls for us. We're also if you have a talent, anything that you want to share in terms of social media or, any way that you would like to contribute, we really appreciate it. And then of course your treasure, if you want to donate, the campaign is definitely not over. We still have a lot more expenses coming up, but if you can donate, every little bit counts. But right now, what we want is people who believe in me to be on those phones and say, you absolutely need to vote for Lucia Baez-Geller. That would be the best gift that you guys can give me right now.
Yes. And if you have a platform, if you know folks who lived in the district, who you may not live in her district, but definitely reach out to the folks that you know on a personal basis. So I know that phone banking is great, but it's even better when your aunt or your cousin or your friend says, hey, do you know Lucia Baez-Geller is running for school board and is amazing? A quick text. So definitely leverage all of the tools in your toolbox, and we'll make sure that all of the links and social media pages are in the chat, and we'll make sure to tag you as well. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been a really great conversation that even has my wheels turning. And definitely, folks have been paying more attention to our school board because of school closures and the impacts and all of that stuff. But really, it comes down to who is best to serve our children and to use our tax dollars in the most beneficial and ethical way. So thank you so much for digging into that with me, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yes, I can't wait. I thank you all, and I'm always going to have my doors open to everybody in the community. So thank you so much. I can't wait to hear from you all.
Thank you, Artie. Bye.
Bye.